Hello, everyone. So, in the last video that I posted, I focused on perfect competition, which is under the market power unit, which is unit 2.11 in the IB economic syllabus. This is a higher level unit. So, this video, the video before, and the next few videos are all higher level, and I'll make sure I put that in the title. Please like, share, subscribe. It really helps with the algorithm. Let me know if you have any questions, just leave a comment and consider becoming a member of the channel. So let's get started and learn about monopolistic competition. So let's start with the characteristics. What are the characteristics of this market structure? Now, there are many firms. They're all small compared to the size of the market, many small firms. However, unlike perfect competition, they produce differentiated products. There is product differentiation. uh, with the perfect competition market structure, there was homogeneous. There were homogeneous products, but here there are differentiated products. So there is some degree of branding, some degree of product differentiation, but there are low barriers to entry. Now, because of there being some product differentiation, what that does is it creates some degree of brand loyalty. It creates some degree of consumer preference. Okay, consumers start to prefer one firm over the other. Think of a lot of restaurants in a big city. Okay, that's a perfect monopolistically competitive market example. It's an example of monopolistic competition. Even if there are, I don't know, 20 Thai restaurants in your city, maybe you have a preference for one over the other. Okay, maybe the food is better quality, the prices are more within your range, your budget range, and so on. Okay, so this gives them some degree of market power, some ability to set the price. So they are price makers with some degree of market power. However, because there are low barriers to entry, the only possible scenario in the long run is normal profit. They may generate abnormal profit or make a loss in the short run, but those abnormal profits or losses will disappear, and whoever remains in the market in the long run will only generate a normal profit. And because the allocative efficiency is produce the output where AR equals MC, they never achieve allocative efficiency because AR never equals MC. This is because they are profit maximizers. They produce the output where MR is equal to MC. So let's have a look. All right. Now, because they are price makers, there is a split between the average revenue, which is the price curve, that's the demand curve that each individual firm faces, and their marginal revenue curve. The marginal revenue is twice as steep. So that's the first difference between this market and perfect competition. And that's because of differentiated products. Okay. So remember, AR never equals MR. Why? Because they are a price maker. Okay, fabulous. So there's a split between AR and MR. They will produce the level of output where MR is equal to MC. That's the profit maximizing output. You go down, this gives you Q pi max, the profit maximizing output, but then you need to go up to get the price. The price, you get that from the AR curve. Okay, there you go. So here we got AR, Q pi max from this intersection here where MR is equal to MC. Now, this is the normal profit scenario in the long run. I start with the long run scenario because that's the only possible scenario in the long run. You'll notice in the long run, at the point where you extract AR from the demand curve, that's also the point where it is tangent to AC. So in the long run, AR must equal AC at Q pi max. Now, where is the allocatively efficient output? It would be this intersection here where AR is equal to MC. Okay, so we'll call this QAE for allocative efficiency. The difference between Q pi max, this triangle that I'm about to shade, the difference here, this triangle here is the welfare loss because this monopolistically competitive firm will produce Q pi max, but this is QAE or Q allocative efficiency. This triangle here is the WL, the welfare loss. Okay, now this is one of the harder diagrams in the unit because you have to make sure that the AC curve intersects the MC curve at its minimum. This is one relationship that you must make sure you include in all of your MC and AC diagrams. And you also need to make sure that the AC is tangent at the point where Q pi max intersects average revenue here. Okay, So in the next slide, I'm going to kind of show you how to draw this diagram. So how do you draw this diagram? Okay, now my iPad is kind of facing up, so it's going to be a little bit clunky, but I'm going to try my best. So first of all, you want to make sure you put price, revenue, costs here in dollars. You want to make sure you put quantity in units or per period or whatever here. Okay, fabulous. Now, remember, you want the AR curve to be somewhat negatively sloped, but quite elastic, okay? Quite flat, not too steep. And then the MR curve is twice as steep here. The MR curve can intersect the x-axis, so part of it can be in the negative here. That's not a problem. Okay, now the next thing is you want to add the MC. Now determine Q pi max through the intersection of MR and MC. This is Q pi max. But then remember, you need to go up to the average revenue curve to get the price or the average revenue. This is the price, which is the average revenue. Okay. Now, you also need to make sure that the average cost curve is tangent to the average revenue curve here and intersects MC at its minimum. So how do I do that? So draw a bowl, make sure it's tangent. See, that was what I was worried about. My iPad would fall. Draw, let's do this again. Draw a bowl. You're drawing a bowl. That's the AC curve. Make sure that it's tangent here. Keep going. Intersects minimum. Come back up like that. Now, obviously, because my iPad's standing up, it's not perfect, but when you draw it on a piece of paper, it should be. So remember, you want to make sure, I'll show you again. Okay. You want to make sure the average cost curve is tangent here. Keep going. There you go. All right. And then keep coming up. So it intersects at its minimum and is tangent here. Okay. And that at this output, Q pi max, you can see AR equals AC, which means there's a normal profit. And if you want to show where the allocatively efficient output is, it's the intersection of MC and AR. Here is QAE. And if you are required in the question to shade or highlight the welfare loss, it will be this triangle here. So this is how you draw this diagram. Now remember, this is the normal profit scenario. Normal pi. Pi is a symbol for profit, which is the only scenario in the long run. Okay, but let's have a look at the two short run scenarios as well. So what about abnormal profit? Abnormal profit is one of these short run scenarios. Okay, it can never be generated in the long run. It will be generated only in the short run. Abnormal profit happens when AR, which is price, is higher than AC. Remember, total revenue is AR times quantity, total cost is AC times quantity, and profit is AR minus AC times quantity. So again, you look at the intersection of MR and MC. This intersection here gives you Q pi max. And then you go up, you see where it intersects the average cost curve, that's your AC. Keep going up, you see where it intersects the price or average revenue curve, this is your average revenue. Okay, so at Q pi max, you extract two intersections. The intersection of this dotted line with the average cost curve is here. The intersection with the average revenue curve is here. Now, the difference between average revenue and average cost, that's the profit per unit. When you multiply that by Q, that's the abnormal profit here, this shaded rectangle here. Okay, now remember, even when they are generating abnormal profit, monopolistically competitive firms are still not allocatively efficient because this is the point of allocative efficiency here. And again, it's the same welfare loss triangle if you need to show it. You won't always need to show it, but this is how you extract the abnormal profit. You determine the intersection of MR and MC. That's Q pi max. Go up, see where that line at Q pi max, where it intersects AC, that's your AC. You get that on the y-axis. Keep going up. That's your AR. You get that on the y-axis. Okay. Now remember, if you have to calculate this, to calculate total revenue, AR times quantity, AR times Q pi max. To calculate total cost, AC times quantity. The difference between total revenue and total cost is your profit, which is also AR minus AC, this distance times quantity. That's your abnormal profit. Let's have a look at the loss scenario now. And here is the loss scenario. You're going to do the same thing. Now remember, a loss happens only in the short run, okay? Because, oh, I forgot to add. So remember, in the previous slide, I showed you the abnormal profit scenario. If there is abnormal profit, remember, one of the characteristics is low or no barriers to entry. So if there is abnormal profit, that will attract competitors. When it attracts competitors, what happens is the market supply increases. There's a lot of competition. So prices begin to fall. Okay, the average revenue curve begins to fall until that abnormal profit disappears. When there's a loss, the opposite happens. Some firms will not be able to sustain that loss, so they will exit the market. Market supply will decrease. Okay, so some customers that used to go to the firms that exited will come to other firms that remain in the market. So over time, the demand curve each firm faces will increase. Price will gradually increase until that loss disappears. Because remember, average revenue is price, it's the demand curve each firm faces. When market supply increases, okay, basically some customers will switch from this firm and go to other firms. So the demand they're facing decreases. Therefore, the price of the product decreases. When market supply decreases because firms are exiting the market, okay, some customers that used to go to a firm that exited will now switch to this firm. So the demand they face will rise, the price will rise until the loss disappears. Okay, so again, determine the intersection of MR and MC. Okay, that's Q pi max. Go up, see where you intersect the average revenue curve. That's your average revenue. All right, so AR times Q pi max. This rectangle here is your total revenue. Okay, and then keep going up because you still haven't intersected at Q pi max, the AC curve. That is your average cost at Q pi max. It's only the average cost at this output. AC times Q pi max, that's your total cost. So because total cost is greater than total revenue, there is a negative profit, there's a loss. So remember, AR times Q is total revenue. AC times Q is total cost. AC minus AR times Q is your loss. Okay, that is your loss because the total cost is higher than the. If you want to do it AR minus C times Q, then it would be negative. That would be your profit. The profit is negative or the loss is. So you don't want the loss to be negative, I don't know what, because that's a double negative. Okay. Fabulous. Again, not achieving allocative efficiency because the allocatively efficient output is here. So this is the welfare loss. All right. Now remember, if there's a loss, some firms will exit the market. So their customers will switch to the firms that are in the market. So over time, firms that remain in the market will see the demand for their product gradually increase, which means the price gradually rises until, again, in the long run, the AR curve will be tangent here. That's why that's the long run scenario. So let's wrap up. I'm back to the diagram on the first slide, which is the only long run scenario. That's the normal profit diagram. Now remember, okay, where MR and MC intersect, that's your Q pi max. You go up, this is your AR equal to AC because this is normal profit. All right. Fabulous. And the difference between this point and this point here is your welfare loss. Remember, profit maximizing output happens when MR equals MC, but allocatively efficient output happens when AR equals MC. Now, because MR and AR are not the same for any price maker, all price makers never achieve allocative efficiency because their AR never equals their MC. So this should actually be AR does not equal MC. So this is a does not equal MC. Okay. Now remember characteristics, as I said, many firms, small compared to the market, they all produce differentiated products, which give them some degree of price making ability, some market power, and there are low barriers to entry, which means if there's abnormal profit, firms will enter the market and prices will gradually fall because there's more competition. If there are losses, some firms will exit the market, price will gradually rise. So eventually, in the long run, the only possible scenario is normal profit. As you can see here, only possible scenario in the long run is normal profit, may only generate abnormal profit or make a loss in the short run. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comment section below and have a great rest of your day. In the next video, I'm going to move on to oligopoly. Bye.